Good day, and how are you today? Sit comfortably. Today we're going to hear David Sharpe, and he's the chair of the Education Committee in the Vermont Legislature.
Thank you, Betty. I'm glad to be here.
You helped write Act 40.
Act 46.
Act 46.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first thing I want to talk about before I talk about Act
Okay.
46 is your service to the legislature.
Oh,
And it's been so over such a long period of time. Your service to Middlebury, your service to the state has just been exemplary. I am proud of you, and I'm sure most of the state is very proud of your work, and I just want to acknowledge that.
oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, I appreciate it.
So Act 46 we passed last year, which is a big deal.
Yes.
It asks for school districts across the state to look at how they're educating their students, how they can do a better job. The goals of Act 46 are quality. We need better quality of education for all of our students. We fall short in two particular areas, and that is educating students from low-income households and inspiring our students to go on to some form of education beyond high school. And we know that almost all the professions opening up, even changing tires in a car now requires some understanding of computers, because the wheels now talk to the computer about how much air is in the tire and that sort of thing. So almost all the professions coming forward in the next decade require some sort of training beyond high school. So we need to do better in that regard. The other area is equity, making sure that all of our students get equal opportunity in education. And we know that there are some high school students in the state of Vermont that can't even take the courses that qualify them to attend our state university, the University of Vermont. And so the educational opportunities for those children fall short, and we have work we have to do in that area. And then the third goal is sustainability. We have to do all of this within a tax structure that Vermonters can afford. So Act 46 was put in place looking at larger, integrated pre-K through 12 school governance systems with the idea that they can make progress in all three of these areas. And the conversations that have happened across the state since the passage of this in May have really been dramatic and exciting. The conversations, the interest, the communication, collaboration among individuals and towns in school districts, talking about how we can do a better job and how we might create larger integrated school districts, has been truly exciting. Last night I attended the meeting of the Addison Central Supervisory Union Candidate Forum. And the discussions around the formation of the new school district in this region were really exciting to me. The 95% of the conversation was how we could do a better job for our students within the framework of a larger integrated school district. And that's really what we need to do.
Yes.
We'll have some savings of dollars, not dramatic. So anybody looking for their taxes to be half of what they were last year, it's not going to find that. But the efficiencies and the ability to deliver a better education, particularly in our small rural schools, is there, and I'm excited by that conversation.
There's sometimes I've heard about children getting to 7th grade, and they're so far behind the other children that are in 7th grade. They, some of them are mad because they weren't taught to that grade level, and others, didn't like it. So it helps to have all the children from grades pre-kindergarten to 6th grade getting some good education on different things. Maybe they never had art, or maybe they have never had music, but they had art, or maybe they had no geography, but they had history. or something, different courses.
Yeah. So differentiated education is actually a good thing, and we've established this personalized learning plans throughout the state. And so moving forward, configuring our education in a way that meets the needs of each individual student is a really good thing. Being able to do that within these little tiny small entities, I think there are 7 in this region, each with their own budget, each with their own challenges in terms of trying to find the personnel to deliver educational services, is really difficult. And the candidates for the positions on the new school board, the new larger school board, all talked about the possibilities of creating an educational system that delivered this kind of education to all students throughout the district, whether they were in the larger community of Middlebury or the smaller surrounding communities.
And did you got a positive feeling from that?
Absolutely. It was dramatic, and it was exciting.
So maybe we'll get it done.
Maybe we'll get it done.
But I think that they also have a backup, that if one school says no, they will vote again for the other 6.
Yes, I think that is a possibility.
Yeah, before June.
I don't know how quickly they'll be able to turn that around.
They have to be before, wasn't it?
Well, no. So it's an accelerated process that has to be voted for before June. And in order to be eligible for the accelerated process, all the communities have to agree to it. So
all the communities that are in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the supervisory union have to agree. If one community decides not to, as in the case of Chittenden East, where Huntington did not agree to join the new school district in Chittenden East, there is a process that can go forward after June. The tax incentives are not as dramatic, and it leaves out one community, which is becomes extraordinarily difficult for that one community to survive on its own. And Huntington actually has recognized that, and they're voting again this year as to whether they want to actually join the Chittenden East School District. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that vote changes and they do in fact join the Chittenden East District. The reality is we have 2 of these functioning right now, and they've shown the ability to protect and actually help small schools remain vital, and they've also helped taxpayers save a few bucks, so and deliver better education to students. So I think the evidence is beginning to grow that these are a good idea. They're a good idea for kids, they're a good idea for schools, and they're a good idea for taxpayers.
Now, you said, I think 12 districts will be done by June?
So when the bill was debated last year,
Yeah.
the agency expected, maybe 4 or 5 districts would be ready to take advantage of the accelerated process. And it looks right now that there'll be as many as 12 that will have a vote before June 30th.
How many school districts would there be in Vermont?
Well,
if all the schools did what those 12 are
what
doing.
Addison Central is planning on doing,
Yeah.
there would be 60 school districts in the state. That's not likely because in several instances, especially south of Route 4, there are some pretty complicated governance situations that have to be sort of unraveled or sorted through before we can create larger integrated school districts in that region of the state. So it's not as easy as it is in Middlebury to accomplish this. So I don't expect we'll get to 60 in the next 5 years, but we'll make tremendous progress, which will be really good for kids.
Oh, because we have what, three districts in this county. Middlebury,
We
Virginia,
might have
Shippers.
3 districts in this county if they all voted to
Uh-huh.
participate in Act 646. Right now, Bristol has 6 school districts. Middlebury has, I think, 8 school districts. And Addison Northwest has,
That's Virginia.
has a number, I don't recall the number, 5 or 6. So
Uh-huh.
you add those up, 5, 10, 15, we have maybe as many as 20 school districts in the county.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have as few as 3 school districts when we get done.
Mm-hmm. Because I think Middlebury would be the biggest, in numbers of schools.
And numbers of students.
And numbers of students because of Middlebury. But, yeah, that's good. So, 2 have already voted on it, then you say? And 5 more?
Yes, Rutland Northeast, and the votes there were really dramatic. I mean, that's just south of this area,
Yeah.
and the overwhelming support for moving in this direction. One of the communities, I think, voted 102 to 3 to support the larger school district, which is really dramatic.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I don't expect all votes to be that dramatic.
No. But, and I don't know if the one school just out, not wanting to do it, like in Huntington. But isn't there the possibility that you could vote with all the other schools and just leave that one out?
Yes, that would be after the June deadline, but yes, that could happen.
You couldn't do it before?
Well, you could do it, but you wouldn't be eligible for the accelerated school district.
Oh, because they would want you to have all the towns?
Yes, the rules are to be eligible for the accelerated process, all the towns of a supervisory union have to vote to support it.
Uh-huh. Oh, all right. I learned something. Well, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of it. I'm very proud of the fact that schools are doing this, because I think they they can get maybe like speech, like foreign language, which they couldn't get before, because 1 or 2 people can go from school to school to school to school. Nobody has to hire them individually.
Yeah, 1/10 here, 2/10 there, that sort of thing.
One school, one hour here or 2. Yeah.
I think what's really one of the things that's been remarkable about this Act 46 process is I think there was pretty widespread understanding across the state that we couldn't continue to keep doing things the way we were doing them. With the dramatic loss of students and the increase in taxes on Vermonters, something had to change. And Act 46 came along, and it was a pretty good something. So we've seen much broader acceptance of that than we expected in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are problems with schools that have choice and stuff.
Yeah.
I learned that there's several kinds of choice. One is the choice for Jens and Bristol to send their children to the tech center in Middlebury. That's one kind of choice.
Yes, we actually have what I describe as 3 different kinds of choice. So you just described one, where a student from Mount Abe district can choose to go to the tech center, the Hannaford Tech Center, and no money, all the money follows that child. Mm-hmm. So that means Mount Abe has X number of dollars, around $14,000 less to spend in their budget on educating the remaining students in Mount Abe, and that the Hannaford Career Center has the $14,000 to spend on educating that student at the Career Center. We have also high school choice, where a student from Mount Abe could choose to go to Middlebury High School, not the tech center, but the regular high school, or Virgins High School, or Champlain Valley Union High School. And in those cases, no money follows the child. The idea here is that the increment of one child if you add one child to Middlebury's high school rolls, it doesn't cost any more money to educate that one additional child. And each high school has the ability to determine what capacity they have to absorb individual students here and there. So in those instances of public high school choice, no money follows a child, and so the sending school gets to retain all of their dollars to educate the students in their community, and the receiving school receives this student with no additional money to educate the students in that school district. The third way we have school choice in Vermont is to issue vouchers for students or pay tuition for students. And that can either be to a designated school where you have an agreement between a town and a particular school that you're going to send all of your students from that town to that school and pay tuition for those students.
Well, that's when the town doesn't have a school.
Or they can close their school, as Concord has chosen to do just recently, and Northeast Kingdom has determined to close its school.
I think the town of Chittenden has done that too. Not Chittenden County, but the town of Chittenden.
So once you close your school, you can either designate a school and send all of your students to that school and pay tuition for them, or you can just give them a voucher that they can use at any school in the world. So we have students from Vermont attending schools in Sweden and Argentina and New Hampshire and Connecticut, using Vermont tax dollars at some elite private schools at the cost of Vermont public school system. And
they pay the whole thing?
No, usually not. An example of one of the elite schools in New Hampshire is that the voucher was for $13,000. The tuition at that school was for $33,000. The school gave a $10,000 scholarship because they wanted that football player on their team. The family still had to come up with an additional $10,000 to pay for that student to go to that elite academy. So that's a third way that we have choice in the state of Vermont.
I don't believe in using public money for private schools. I've never believed in that. As public money, they have to go to public schools. Otherwise, we sent our children out. We paid every penny. Let me tell you, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one tough job. And we had to do without a lot of things. But at the time, we needed to do that.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you use the word public. So what the definition of a public school is not clear. So charter schools, for example, are a form of public schools, but they are not. They are run by private, either nonprofit or for-profit companies, at the behest of a community. So that is a form of public school that does not have a voted school board by the local community. The local community just pays tuition to the charter school. We have no charter schools in Vermont, but they're not uncommon. We have something close to a charter school with our what we refer to as traditional academies in Vermont. So that's St. Johnsbury, Burton, Thedford Academy, and Linden Institute. Those schools accept public dollars as the entire payment of the tuition to that school. So parents do not have to chip in any additional money.
So if someone's school is $14,000, they get $14,000. But if they one school says $11,000, they pay $11,000.
Well, the tuition is set sort of by agreement between the traditional academy and the community that's sending students there. The traditional academies have been willing to enter into conversations with communities about how much they could afford. And they have set pretty reasonable tuition rates, to my understanding. And they take, in many cases, they'll take all the students from the community. So they function sort of like public schools. They do bill back for special education costs and other costs. So they don't function quite like public schools. And the rules they operate under are quite different than they are for public schools.
But do they have to take everybody?
I don't think they have to, but in many instances they agree to.
Uh-huh.
So it's an interesting sort of anomaly that we have in this state with these traditional academies. It's amazing, there have been calls for us to do charter schools. Now, charter schools have a much higher level of accountability with local communities because they function as public schools than do the traditional academies. Our traditional academies operate with essentially no state rules. The teachers don't have to be certified. The budget's not voted on by the public. So in many respects, their books are not audited by the state. So in many respects, they are actually under fewer restrictions than charter schools are.
Well, that's why I say that public money shouldn't be used for private schools, because who takes care of the disabled children back home if all the money goes out to a private school and they don't take any? And their teachers are maybe better paid or less paid. And so then the schools have to take care of all the disabled, whether it's mental or physical, or it's a lot or it's a little disability. And children who aren't doing so well, the schools won't take some of them. And that leaves the public schools, if too many go out, to raise their taxes to pay for these children.
Yeah. So you touched on an area where we know we have significant work to do, and that is with special education.
Yeah.
Part of Act 46 was looking at what's called an adequacy study. So many states across the country have in their constitutions that the state must provide an adequate education. We do not have that in Vermont. What we have is that the state must require an equitable education. Nevertheless, there were lots of questions about what's the right amount of money to spend. What does an adequate education cost? And so we commissioned a study to look at that. And that commission said that we spend about $164 million, too much money, on education, K through 12 education in Vermont. $140 million of that is special education costs.
Really?
Yeah, extraordinary education costs. And it's because we don't run a particularly efficient special education system in Vermont. We have a reimbursement system. So the state reimburses school districts based on how much they spend on a special needs student. So we say, if I were to say to you, when you go grocery shopping for the week, that I'll pay 60% of the cost of your grocery shopping, your decisions might be different than they would if you're paying the full cost. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of system we have for funding special education, is we reimburse based on the expenditures of school districts. Furthermore, then, in order to keep the reins on spending, is we require extraordinary documentation on the part of special educators and people and school districts. That is really quite onerous and ties their hands in many ways in how they're going to deliver those special education services. So we're looking at ways to change the funding and change the rules around how special education is delivered so that we do a better job. I'm not sure we can save $140 million,
Yeah.
but I'm certain we can do a better job delivering special education to our needy children.
One of the things that somebody suggested doing to me is taking some special children out, certain types of children, and putting them in a separate school for an hour or 2 hours or for a morning, and then put them back in with the class. And they said that these children were so happy that they didn't have to fight against all of this other intelligence, that they could all be the same as other children in the classroom. So I don't know if that works or if anybody has, I heard some schools have started doing that.
So we have to be very careful because there are pretty stringent federal rules around mainstreaming of students. In fact,
this wasn't all day. This was only part day.
Part day might work. Recently we had the DO program, the Distributed Occupations Program, that's operated out of the Hannaford Technical Center, Career Center, and the federal government, has forced significant changes, maybe even the closing of that program because of it didn't mainstream students enough. And there were some pretty strong reaction to that, this has been a highly successful program for students over the decades in Middlebury, and some resentment that it was being forced to change by federal rules. So that we've yet to see how that plays out, but we have to be careful how we move forward with special education.
Well, if they're going to be better, helped better and happier and learn more.
That would seem like a no-brainer, but we have to do it within federal rules until and unless the federal rules change.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know. I know how that works.
Yeah,
I've been around long enough to know how that works.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way with transportation. You have to do certain things in transportation in order to get the money.
That's
you have to drive alcohol, I think, for 21.
That was one, and the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit was another,
Yeah.
and then more practical things like how wide you build the road.
Yeah.
It has to be according to federal specifications if you want to use federal money.
So if you want to use federal money for schools, you gotta
follow the rules.
Follow the rules. Well, we all like to follow the rules, but sometimes we would like a little change in them once in a while.
A little flexibility sometimes would be a good thing.
Well, thank you for coming and speaking to us, and thank you for listening, and I found it very enjoyable. Thank you.
I'm delighted to be here.
All right, bye-bye.